Man, I have to be honest, like, I've got actual watches at the house that I love, but I have become reliant. I feel naked when I'm not wearing it.
Sometimes, like,
am one of the
let's just say,
bridesmaids.
I'm walking up my desk, I'm up there helping a customer, and somebody called me, I look down and see if it's a box.
Madam Secretary, are we still waiting for the computer to?
It's up, but I gotta get everything, situated. If you give me another minute.
We will wait a couple minutes here. Make sure everything is running properly. Excuse my voice this morning. I don't have anything contagious for all you guys up here. You're in good shape.
We'll figure it out.
Worst case, I'll start the language, right? I've got cold water. They tell me it's supposed to be better. Ready?
Can you see my screen?
It's a beautiful waves. Oh, I see now. Okay. So we ready? We call this meeting to order of the Escambia County Compsy Board, March 4th, 2026. If you would, let's all stand together and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, do we have a determination of quorum today?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, with 7 members present, we do.
And do we have proof of publication of our meeting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, it was published on Thursday, February 26, 2026, in the Pensacola News Journal.
Thank you. And do I have a motion for approval of minutes from the February 4th meeting?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. Motion is approved. And thank you for Mr. Patel for making sure that meeting went good. Our next part is the public forum. If there's anybody here today that would like to speak during the public forum session, we have a 3-minute allowance as per the commissioners' meeting for this. If anybody is here today would like to speak.
I didn't receive any speaker request forms, Chair.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that did not sign up that is here to speak in public forum? Seeing none, we will move on. Board Secretary status report.
Yes, sir, Chair. I have a request for an add-on. It's an application for reinstatement of license. He came in just after I published the agenda. His name is Brian David Erdman. So if I could get approval to add this on.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same side. Seeing none, hearing none. Motion is approved. You have papers for us? Thank you.
Yes, sir. That is all I have.
Okay, thank you. And we will move him to number 4 on the contractor applications to give everybody time to look over as well. Okay. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Sir.
Absolutely. Our first applicant appearing before you today is Mr. Dalton Walker Hike. Mr. Walker Hike, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dalton Walker Hike.
And state your address for us.
2519 Valley Road, Navarre, Florida, 32566.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Walker Hike is applying for the residential contractor examination and appears before you today with 14 years of experience in the state of Maryland with MHIC contractor license number 79756 with his company A Bella Casa LLC from 2011 to 2025. This information was provided to us by the Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing of Maryland Home Improvement Commission, HMIC, and this along with his certificate of completion for Florida Advanced Building Code in 2021, according to the documents provided, and they can be found in the agenda items. And also, Mr. Walker Hike worked as a independent residential contractor for Veteran Built Homes LLC under the supervision of Joseph Murillo, who holds a MHIC Class A contractor license, with license number 2705178294. And Mr. Walker Hike's responsibilities include but are not limited to completing residential construction, remodeling, and repair work within agreement to timeline, coordinating work schedules, and communicating progress or delays and correct deficiencies related to the task at hand. And with Mr. Walker Hike's experience verification and consideration, staff recommendation is approved for examination.
Good morning, Mr. Hike. Would you like to share anything with us this morning?
Well, I moved to the state of Florida in 2021, and kind of live in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area where I did most of my residential work. Own some homes over there, renovated some homes, rental homes, and my wife and I decided, well, we got tired with the 495 and 95 traffic, and we visited some friends here and saw this place and decided, well, why don't we just move out here, find a place, and then we found a land up in Navarre off of PGA Boulevard to the Adam Homes. We got a 3,000 square foot home. That's where we live. Own 2 couple of rental homes right now in city of Pensacola on East Blunt and East Hill. So I'm trying to get my license and see what best that I was doing in Maryland, D.C., Virginia, to bring that to this beautiful city of Pensacola. Wish I can see this. A lot of homes, lands need renovations and work. And with that experience, I hope I can get a license and do the right thing, go through the license procedure, permit inspections.
Any questions from the board?
I was just going to see, does staff have a recommendation, or did I miss that part?
Yes, sir. Staff recommends approval for the applicant for examination.
Anybody else have any questions? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a double second. All in favor, any discussion of that? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. Motion approved. Congratulations, and hope you do well.
Thank you so
Very
much.
good.
Thank you for your
Yes, sir.
time, guys.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day.
Good morning, Board. Our second applicant to appear before you today is Miss Melissa Freeman. Ms. Freeman, if you would please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Melissa Freeman, 224 Payne Road, Pensacola, Florida, 32507.
If I may just remind the board, initially, Ms. Freeman was approved to test for roofing. After that meeting, we were contacted by Santa Rosa County and found out that she had actually already tested through Santa Rosa County, so that did change the process. I did contact Ms. Freeman and let her know that we would need to proceed with the reciprocity process, which is why she's appearing today. So having said that, we will move forward. You will find contained within her packet the application for reciprocity, her state registered license, a copy of her competency card, her letter of reciprocity with test scores, corresponding insurances, and the experience verification forms which were previously approved under her application for examination. She did also provide the financial history, which was also considered in the last hearing. Ms. Freeman was previously approved, but again, because this is reciprocity, it does need to appear before you. And being reciprocity, we will defer to the board for approval or denial of this application.
Good morning. Would you like to tell us anything about what you're doing here?
No, I think I've said it all before.
I got you. So you're not qualifying the Freeman Roofing. You're starting your own.
Right, yeah, I had resigned from Freeman in April, it was April 29th of 2025, so.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. Motion is approved.
All right,
Thank you, Ms.
thank
Freeman.
Thank you.
Alrighty, our next applicant appearing before you today is Mr. Billy Gray. Mr. Gray, please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record.
Billy Gray, 824 Linda Drive, Mary Esther, Florida, 32569.
All right, and Mr. Gray is applying to reciprocate his Okaloosa County sprinkler irrigation contractor license with license number PLC 11167 and appears before you today with 18 years of experience. Mr. Gray worked as owner of his company, Irrigation Innovations, LLC, from 2008 to the current date, and his responsibilities include but are not limited to installing irrigation systems, invoicing, and estimating, according to the application provided in the agenda items. Now, by this being an application for reciprocity, staff will defer to the board for the final decision.
Good morning, Mr. Gray.
Morning.
Anything you'd like to tell the board this morning? Tell us.
No, I just have several realtors who've been asking me to come to this county to service and install systems, and so here I am today to hopefully have the opportunity to service this area.
Any questions from the board?
No, sir. Don't know. Please said questions. Do I have questions for the board?
It's okay.
I apologize.
They're pretty good today. So. Sometimes I would rather not them ask you to. So. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. Motion approved. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Board, that'll take us to our final item, which was the add-on for Mr. Brian David Erdman for reinstatement of delinquent license. Mr. Erdman, if you would please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, sir.
Brian Erdman, 4550 Balmoral Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32504.
The documents which were provided to you earlier will contain a copy of the reinstatement for delinquent license application, along with the explanation letter provided by Mr. Erdman. Mr. Erdman, he appears before you today requesting to reinstate his doors, windows, and siding license number DWS 0087. The license was scheduled to be renewed on November 5th, 2017. However, it was not renewed. This makes total delinquency as of today's date 8 years, 3 months, and 27 days. Mr. Erdman has paid the fee to appear before the board. He has submitted his application for reinstatement, and pending the board's approval, is willing to pay the remainder of the fees. He has submitted all needed documents, including his business tax receipt, insurances, driver's license, and has updated all demographic information. Staff did verify the financial criminal history record, which was clear, and we will defer to the board for approval or denial of the reinstatement of this license.
Good morning, Mr. Erdman.
Good morning.
Would you like to address the board this morning? Tell us.
Well, I don't have too much to say. I've been working in Escambia County as well as Santa Rosa and Okaloosa for 24 years, subcontracting, and I've been in business incorporated anyway since I think 2005, so 21 years incorporated, and I kind of want to go out on my own and stop this subcontracting.
So you've been working with local licensed
Yes, sir.
subcontracting work from them.
Yes, sir.
And this has been 17 years.
Have I been was it the original license? I believe so, yeah.
Was it 10-year lapse, right? Or
Ten-
9 years?
9 years.
9-year lapse.
9-year lapse.
Did staff verify the involvement in the business of irrigation for the, irrigation is what you're looking for, right? What license?
Doors, windows.
Doors,
and
windows. So did we verify the employment history or subcontractor history?
We did not. In this case, the license was appropriately issued, so that's not typically something we would do for reinstatement. We would, if it were not beyond the 3 years, then we would pay the due fees and reinstate that license, with the exception of financial and criminal history, of course.
So we're taking his word, which is understandable, that the last 8 years he still has been active in this, because obviously there's code issues. Mr. Bobby has changed in the last 8 years and stuff that if he's been involved, he would know. But if not, a lot of changes happened in that period of time.
They sure have.
So you've been involved
Every day.
every day.
Yes, sir.
So we do have a form that we make our applicants fill out, right?
We do. It's the one which was provided to you, sir. If it was a couple of months, they would check the first box. If it's short of 3 years, it's the second, and then the third is when it appears before the board with additional fee. But that is our process for reinstatement. So there's no experience verification form like you would see with reciprocity or with examination.
We just haven't had one?
We haven't, not to this point, no, sir.
Any other questions? Okay. You okay with that?
Yeah, we don't have a
We
problem.
don't have
You may want to, so other areas that you can explore as a board, you can find out whether or not he was licensed in other areas. You can ask him what he was actually doing in the time since that, because this is your decision and it seems like you have a little hesitation because you don't have more information. But you can ask him anything you want to ask him right now regarding his history and his experience.
So can you give us a little bit of detail of who you worked with or?
Absolutely. I went through, I think, 4 owners at Window World. I was there 17 years. The last being Michael Brian Tillman. And then I started working for EcoView, and I have been there ever since. and they just changed ownership, so now I don't currently work. I haven't worked in the last week. So out of the 24 years, this is the first week I've had off.
Okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to step up.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion, second. Any discussion up here? No discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none. Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Good luck, man.
Thank you so much, Board. That'll conclude our applications for today's meeting.
So before we
Yes, sir.
turn it over, so is it possible for us to have a employment or subcontractor history for even when they're coming in, when their license is expired, if it's been a number of years?
That's as simple. We can add that form to the packet.
If we could do that.
The
moving
direction
forward,
of the
that'd be
board.
great.
Yeah, I don't want Mr. Urban to think we're questioning his integrity or anything like that, but that length of time, I feel like there is a concern. I mean, it could be that he just was out fishing for 8 years, you know, and there was a lot going on in the business world of you know, that he would not be up to date with. So I think that would be a great thing. I concur with that.
We'll get that added to the packet, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Urban. Okay, moving to the probable cause hearings.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Our first item for probable cause is Jacqueline Jackie Roberts, doing business as Right Now Roofing LLC, state certified license number CCC 1331763, contractor competency board complaint number 2512115 COM. It's in regard to Dave Gilbert, complainant at 308 Bayshore Drive, Pensacola, Florida 32507. Ms. Roberts, are you present today?
Ms. Roberts is not, but I am for Right Now.
And you're a representative of Right Now? And what is your name, sir? Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, are you present today?
Yes.
Gentlemen, are you going to provide testimony for this hearing? At this time, I'm going to have both parties sworn in, and as well as Investigator Reber, and Ms. Reber will remain sworn for the duration of these hearings.
Thank you.
Okay, Cameron, raise the right hand. You swear affirm the testimony about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So, we're just going to take you through the investigation report. Ms. Reber, was a complaint filed in regard to this case, and on what date was it filed?
December 21st, 2025.
And was a case number assigned to this case?
Yes, it was. Jacqueline Jackie Roberts, doing business as Right Now Roofing, LLC.
And what license number does Ms. Roberts hold?
CCC 1331763, state certified roofing contractor.
What was the address on file for Ms. Roberts?
3890B Pasco Street, Pensacola, Florida 32505.
And in the backup for the agenda is your notice that was sent to the respondent?
Yes, there is.
Who is the complainant?
Dave G. Gilbert.
During your investigation, were you able to assign any alleged code violations? If so, please state that, your justification, and any supporting documentation.
I was. Code Section 1837C1, disregard or failure to correct building code violation or any municipal or county building code ordinances or laws of the state of Florida. Justification is the failure to obtain a passing roof final. Supporting documentation is Investigators Exhibit F, inspection report.
Can you give us a brief synopsis of the complaint?
Gilbert and Roberts of Right Now Roofing Tampa entered into an agreement on April 28, 2025 to install a new roof. The total amount of the agreement was $2,918.48. Gilbert states that Roberts has failed to finalize the permit and obtain a past inspection. Roberts states that they were not paid for the project. A search for the permitting history on the subject property reveals a roof permit was obtained by Right Now Roofing LLC on August 5th, 2025. Inspection on permit failed on August 27th, 2025 due to failure to get an in-progress inspection, resulting in the need for an engineer's affidavit. Gilbert terminated the permit on December 12th, 2025.
And quickly, Board, we're going to run through the exhibits that are attached. You will see the complainant's Exhibit A, the complaint, B, the release of contractor, investigators exhibit, the notice of probable cause, that's A, B is the certified return receipt, C is the subcontract agreement, D is the unpaid invoice, E, Right Now Roofing the permit, F is the inspection report, G is the contractor's response, and then at the very end, we have the history of the permitting. Staff requests that these items be moved into evidence for this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion is approved.
Both parties are present. It's at the discretion of the board. Well, Mr. Kent is present as representation for Ms. Roberts.
So I'd like to just make note that this next item rolls into this. Is that correct?
That is correct. We received one complaint, and then they flipped it and complained from the other side as well.
Okay. Just so the board can be aware when we come, that they're kind of rolled together somewhat. Okay, so Ms. Roberts is not here. Is there some? Okay. Would you like to address the board today on her behalf? Need you to come to the microphone and state your name and address? Your personal name and your personal address.
Keith Kent, 1250 Barmel Street, Pensacola, Florida, 32534. There was a clerical error when we filed for the permit initially. We filed for a re-roof permit instead of a new construction permit. The reason that there is no in-progress inspection is because we were not hired to do the nailing of the roof deck or the dry-in. That was already done before we came on site. All we were hired to do was install drip edge, seal the perimeter of the roof, install the shingles, hip and ridge shingles, and the flashing where the new shingles were to meet the old roof. Mr. Gilbert's company, his framers that built the addition onto this house are the ones that nailed the decking. This information was given to the permitting office. I'm not sure why we were not allowed to change it from a re-roof to a new construction. We did give, or my office was supposed to have sent them the passing report for the nailing and strapping that Renovation Masters already had done when they built the addition. So that's why we could not get a mid-roof inspection because, or an in-progress inspection, because we did not do the nailing of the roof deck and we did not do the dry-in process.
And Mr. Kent, can you just let the board know your affiliation with Right Now Roofing LLC?
I'm a manager for Right Now Roofing LLC, I'm a project manager, and I was the installer for this job.
I need some help. Mr. Bobby, you can help me with some of this. How long have you been project manager in this area for roofing?
6 years.
6 years. In progress roofing inspection has to do with the shingle install, not decking. Is that correct?
So it can be both. So when I first got on here, the wind load inspection used to be a roof in progress inspection as well.
Roof bump.
But recently, probably a couple years back, it's changed where now it's you got to have a separate roof in progress inspection.
Right. So while the shingles are being installed, an inspector has to be on site during the install.
Yes, sir. Check
That's-
that underlayment and nail pattern.
Right. And that's been going on for the last couple of years.
Okay. Normally, we have been requested to, if they can't get an inspector out there, we send in pictures of the nailing pattern, which I have sent in pictures of I sent pictures of the nailing pattern of the drip edge. It's 4 inches of roofing cement. We do 8 inches of roofing cement around the perimeter. And then the nailing pattern for the starter shingles, and then also the nailing pattern for the field shingles.
Right.
Those should have been sent in with.
I understand that, but that would be again, Mr. Bobby, he's representing the building department here.
Yes.
That would be at the discretion of the inspector, whether they send pictures or he would have to do a visual site inspection.
Just for record purposes, we still have to have that inspection called in, even if the inspector is willing to accept the pictures because it's his license. He's signing off on the
Right,
inspection.
right.
So it's still at his discretion, but we still have to have, for record purposes, that roof in progress scheduled and called in.
I believe it was scheduled.
You just said that you didn't have to have one because
No,
you guys didn't do the plywood. That's what I'm trying to establish with you. What was your last name again?
Kent.
Mr. Kent. I'm trying to establish with you that inspection was still necessary regardless of whether you guys did the plywood. Because from what I heard you say from the beginning, you did not have to have it because you did not do the plywood. I want to establish you did have to have it because that's not the plywood, that is the shingles. And I'm correct, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. I just want to establish that up front because you did have to have this inspection.
Yes, sir. I understand that. I'm not sure exactly how the process, because my office handles most of the processing. Our home office in Tulsa, Oklahoma. When I was handling it here prior to the change, I was handling everything here before they got it set up in Tulsa. We would schedule everything and we would submit everything with a roofing affidavit with pictures. Now, over the past 3 years, the office in Tulsa has been handling it, and I've been out of the loop on that side of it, so I was not aware of the change.
Mr. Lister, if I may, affidavits are really only for re-roofs only and not new roofs.
Right, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Because
this is the first, 99% of what we do is re-roofs. We generally don't do brand new construction. So this was one of our first forays into new construction. But we do have the photos of the nailing pattern on the shingles. We have photos of the nailing pattern on the drip edge. We have photos of the.
So I'm looking.
Dated.
I'm looking back at the synopsis here, and it says that Mr. Gilbert states that Mr. Roberts has failed to finalize the permit and obtain a past inspection. Was there a final inspection passed on this job? I don't know if Ms. Jennifer.
No, the final inspection, what they did is they submitted an affidavit. So it was failed. Now it needs engineering. But since then, the contractor has terminated the permit, so it's kind of a moot point.
Okay, but and you guys feel free to chime in, but so they did fail to finalize the permit, and they did not pass an in-progress inspection because it wasn't scheduled. So those are legitimate items, is what I'm hearing.
That's correct.
Okay. Is everybody kind of clear with?
Understand.
So we had to go schedule the final. We had to schedule the in progress. So I think our office scheduled the in progress, but it was after the job was already done, and we sent pictures of the nailing of the shingles. But when we spoke with the permitting office, when they kept kicking it back, we were told it's because there was no nailing of the roof deck. That's why I brought it up the first time. The reason they told us that they would not pass the in progress was not because of the nailing of the shingles or having someone come out to inspect it, because I would have gladly gone out and pulled up 3, 4, 5, 6 shingles, however many I need to pull up to show the nailing pattern. They told us that the reason it was failed was because there were no pictures of the roof deck re-nail.
Did y'all get a name of the clerk that might have told you that?
I generally don't when speaking.
'Cause sometimes I would imagine somebody in the office just reading something, but not quite. They could say because of the nailing, and not understand if that's plywood or shingles.
So sometimes whenever the inspector on site, they may do a strapping and nailing or wind load, but they didn't necessarily check the roof decking because it used to be included in our wind load as part of it. But now that since we have a separate inspection just for that, they may have not have verified that. So that's probably what he was told by the inspector or somebody in the office.
Somebody in the office.
Just to add another component, I'm going to bring up the inspection report and draw to your attention the details. It was actually Bobby that failed the inspection per our deputy building official. So the deputy building official looked at the pictures and made that determination that it will need an engineer's affidavit. So it wasn't just the inspector, it was the
Right.
deputy building official at the time that made that determination.
And to do that, of course, you have to have an engineer letter. And y'all never attempted to do that?
We don't really have, that's something my office normally handles. I generally don't reach out to engineers. So I'm not sure if they did or not.
Anybody here have any questions? Just trying to make sure we understand the scope of everything here. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kent, for your time. Mr. Gilbert, would you like to address the board?
Morning.
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 You need your name and address first, please.
David Gilbert, 4857 Soundside Drive, Gulf Breeze, 32563.
Okay. What would you like to tell the board today about this?
In short, we hired Right Now Roofing to do this roof, and you've heard, his side of things or what they did. From my perspective, they never were able to pass that final inspection, and they did not get the engineered letter they needed for that roof scope. But there was also another spot that the final didn't pass because there was flashing missing at another level. And when we tried, I had my attorney reach out to them. They did not respond. So I got an engineer to come out to try to get the engineer letter to move this forward. And he came out, they did an inspection of the roof, and because they were going to assume the permit and just kind of come in and help me finish this up, they didn't approve of the installation. So now what I did was I canceled that permit, and I hired this other company, South Bay Construction, and they're in the process right now of redoing the roof and getting it right so we can pass final inspection. So that's where I'm at with it. And we couldn't close the permit out without that final. So I was stuck for several months here. And so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Gilbert?
No, at this time.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
So what I'm understanding is that we have a final inspection that has not been passed. I read somewhere in there regarding payment also, but we're not going to tackle that because that's not in our scope. Yeah. So without that final, we've got another contractor that's come in now, and he's going to redo what he needs to get redone and then see if we can't get a final for the homeowner. Am I correct in saying that?
Sounds.
So our options today are to move it into disciplinary or?
Yeah. We're looking at to see if there is probable cause to move it to a disciplinary hearing next month.
Your chairperson's correct.
Thank you. I don't know if there's any other discussion happening from the council.
Anybody else have any discussion? Anybody want any input, thoughts? Speak now or forever, right? Okay. Do I have a motion of which way to go with this?
I'll make a motion to move to probable cause hearing.
Move to disciplinary?
Yep.
Move to disciplinary.
Mhm.
And I have a second, do I? Second. Okay. I have a motion and a second to move to probable cause to disciplinary hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none. Motion is approved to move to disciplinary hearing.
What's the date of the next hearing?
That will actually be April 1st.
Lovely.
First Wednesday of the month. I can't help it.
There will be a lot of fun at that meeting. Oh, boy. Okay, our next
Probable cause hearing
is tied into it.
Yep, David G. Gilbert, doing business as Renovation Masters LLC, state certified license number CRC 1332519. Contractor Competency Board complaint number 2512118 COM. It's in regard to James Roberts, the complainant, 308 Bayshore Drive, Pensacola, Florida 32507. We know that Mr. Gilbert is present today. Mr. Roberts, are you present?
Mr. Kent.
Mr. Kent again is present. Do I need to have them resworn since they were previously sworn? Yes, both parties, as Christie just stated, you are and still remain sworn from the previous hearing. So I'm going to bring up our investigation report. And again, Ms. Reber, was a complaint filed with our office in regard to and on what date was it filed?
Yes, it was January 8th, 2026.
And did you assign a case number to the complaint?
I did, 2512-118 COM.
And who was the subject of the complaint?
Dave G. Gilbert, doing business as Renovation Masters LLC.
And what is the address on file for Mr. Gilbert?
4857 Soundside Drive B, Gulf Breeze, Florida, 32563.
What is Mr. Gilbert's license number?
CRC 1332519. That's a state registered residential contractor.
State certified residential contractor?
Sorry, state certified.
Yes, ma'am. And who is the complainant in this case?
James Roberts.
And during your investigation, were you able to assign any alleged violations? If so, please state the code section, your justification, and any supporting documentation.
Code Section 1837D8, mismanagement or misconduct causing financial harm to a customer. First violation is $100 to $5,000. The justification is failure to pay subcontractor. Supporting documentation, Complainant's Exhibit C, unpaid invoice from Right Now Roofing Tampa, dated 7/22/25, in the amount of $3,168.48, which includes a $250 late fee.
Can you take us through a brief synopsis?
Gilbert and Roberts of Right Now Roofing Tampa entered into agreement on April 28, 2025 to install a new roof. The total amount of the agreement was $2,918.48. Roberts alleges that after the roof was completed, Gilbert failed to pay for the work. Gilbert states that Roberts failed to finalize the permit and obtain a past inspection. A search of the permitting history on this project reveals a roof permit was obtained by Right Now Roofing LLC on August 5th, 2025. Inspection on permit failed on August 27th, 2025, due to failure to get an in-progress inspection, resulting in the need for an engineer's affidavit.
Again, board, both parties are present.
This is the same job address as the previous one.
And I do want to take you through our exhibits so we can move them into evidence. We have Complainant's Exhibit A, the complaint, Exhibit B, subcontract agreement, Exhibit C, the unpaid invoice. Our investigators Exhibit A, the notice, B, the certified return receipt, C, the permit, D, the inspection report, E, again, the response to complaint, and then the history of permitting for Mr. Gilbert. Staff would request that all of these items be moved into evidence for this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. Okay, would the board like to hear from those again, or is this what? Basically, what it appears is the roofing company wants to be paid by Mr. Gilbert, and that's the reason for the complaint. And of course, we understand why it's where it's at right now, based on the previous account. Mr. Christie, should we at least let him?
Well, you can do two things. You can have them come forward and testify, or you can accept the testimony that's already been given in the previous case, since they were set on the same set of facts, and see if there's any additional information that the parties would like to.
But Mr. Gilbert, you're the subject here. Is there anything you would like to add to what you've already said in your previous testimony as to why you not paid these guys? Okay. If you're going to speak, I need you to come to the mic. Sorry. Public meeting.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just that I tried to get an engineer out there who also has a roofing license to get the situation moving forward. And our communication with Right Now Roofing was completely ignored. So we weren't getting any feedback from them. So I felt like for the sake of our clients and homeowners to get this settled out, we had to move forward and make a decision. So that would be it.
Okay. Anybody want to ask a question?
Question. Who paid for the materials?
I did.
This is labor.
Wait. No, they paid for the materials. Yes, sir. That's right.
So you don't think you need to pay them for that if you're not going to tear it out and redo it?
We are tearing it out and redoing it. Yes, sir. That's happening right now, actually. According to the inspection from South Bay, the nailing pattern on the shingles, the flashing and the tying was holding water up where they tied into the other roof, because there was an existing roof that was tied into. So all that failed according to their inspection. So that's what we decided. We're just going to start from scratch and make sure everything's right. And all the inspections are right.
Mr. Kent, did you know that?
I do not.
And you did have you've done an engineering report?
No, sir, just an inspection.
Just an inspection?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Gilbert?
But they've pulled a new permit on it, a new roofing permit. So now we're in the process of them. They should be getting that in-process inspection here. I'm guessing it'll be today or tomorrow.
I guess my question is that, so you had a subcontractor that did the roof, didn't do it right for whatever reason, didn't pass inspection. You've got another subcontractor now that's come in that's going to do the roof.
Yes, sir.
And in any business, obviously, the new guy's always going to say everything needs to be redone 100%. So did you not do a report stating, hey, what defaults do we have from the first subcontractor that did it, and then just minimize that cost and just do that portion of it? Or are you just having the whole re-roof done without an engineering report?
Yes, so according to their inspection, the engineer's inspection.
When you say engineer, who's engineer?
Larry Skopecki.
So is he with a roofing company, or is it?
Yes, sir, both.
Okay.
They're engineers, but they're also a roofing company and construction company.
Okay.
And according to their inspection, they had lifted up several tabs throughout and said that the nailing pattern on the shingles would eventually leak water, and they weren't going to assume responsibility for that. So.
And I'm taking you documenting all this.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, at this point, the homeowners have attorneys involved trying to finish it out, and so do I. So we're documenting everything and just trying to get it finished out.
And you were the contractor that was hired by the homeowners?
Yes, sir.
And then you hired the subcontractor to come in?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Just Has the homeowners paid you for the job?
No, sir.
For the roofing? No.
That's
Okay,
another
so-
part.
So they haven't paid you in turn, you didn't pay for it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Paul. Get your microphone.
What kind of effort did you extend towards the roofing subcontractor to come out and do the work? Was there any communication between the both?
Between Right Now Roofing?
That's right.
Yes, sir. We mailed them after the inspection. Now that this attorney is communicating, so my attorney communicated with theirs directly. Hey, these things have failed. Are you going to come out and fix it? No response. And then we communicated with them. Now we're going to tear off and redo it. Do you want to come remediate this? And this was probably not with Mr. Kemp, but with their attorney in their office. And there was no response to that either. So they've had time to respond, in my opinion.
About how much time was that?
Month, and then the last one was about a week. We gave them a week on the, but this has been going on for several months before that.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yes, sir.
And this is the first time you've used a subcontractor, or have you?
No, we've used it on a couple other ones also.
And those went okay?
Yeah, a couple of them did. We do have another one, a larger one that are around the same time as this is not gone okay. So,
Same company?
yes, sir.
I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions for Mr. Gilbert? Okay, thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you.
Mr. Kent, would you like to address the board any on this? We'll give you an opportunity.
I just want to say that I was not made aware of any communications. In fact, we had reached out a couple of times to see what the holdup was, why we weren't getting paid, what was going on. And we also did not receive any reciprocity. He did not speak to my office. He didn't, when I've shot text messages or made phone calls, he will respond to text messages, but they're in generalities. So we know, I'm not aware, like you said, if it's attorneys communicating, they're probably not going to communicate with me, but I was not made aware of any of those issues. So I had no idea the flashing was holding water, and I know for a fact they were wrong about the nailing pattern on the shingles because they're hand-driven, and I would have liked to be out there while that inspection was going on to see what they were talking about.
I'm sure you've taken pictures of your.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else you'd like to say, Mr. Kent? Anybody have a question for Mr. Kent? Thank you, sir. So,
Options?
yeah.
You're at the juncture where you would decide whether you wanted to take this to disciplinary hearing or not based on what's been provided to you.
The information that you received today indicated that there was additional documentation that hasn't been presented to this board. So your other option is to continue the probable cause hearing on this issue, on this one, and see, because you appear to have hesitation. So you could continue it and see if you can get the additional documentation that you've been told about today.
Thank you.
Before you make a probable cause determination.
I was curious about that because even though the engineer / roofer has not given a report, there was an inspection done, and surely there's some documentation of that nail pattern, et cetera. So I feel like there's more information. I see everybody's head gone.
And also there was mention of communications.
Yes, that's the second part.
Between the companies, yes.
I think the board, y'all stop me if I'm off, definitely some type of verification of this inspection, whether or not it be a complete report, so we can know more about these nail patterns. And second of all, some type of evidence of the communication between the attorneys to let them know that they did have a window. Because Florida has laws that a subcontractor builder has a right to fix it themselves before it moves into anything else. So we want to make sure that we're not overriding some stuff here.
So then you would just need a motion to continue the probable cause hearing.
And then ask for this information.
So I'll make a motion to continue the probable cause hearing and to request additional information that we can use for this case.
Second.
All right, I have a motion, second, any discussion? All in favor, right hand. All opposed, same sign, seeing none. Motion is approved. We will move that, stay it until next month for public calls. And you guys can get with Miss Reber, and she can get more of what we'll need from y'all. Okay? Thank y'all.
Our next item before the board today is Dustin A. Vaughn, doing business as your local construction of the Emerald Coast, Inc., local license number RR 2828-12247, contractor competency board complaint number 26015 COM. It's in regard to TJ Thompson, 7 Casino Beach Boulevard, Pensacola Beach, Florida, 32561. Mr. Vaughn, are you present today? And I believe you have representation with you, correct? And Mr. Thompson, are you present today? Yes, okay, thank you, sir. Christy, both parties have representation with them today? Yep. And at this time, we're going to have both parties sworn in. And just a reminder, Ms. Reber remains sworn.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
We're going to just go through the investigation report real quickly. Ms. Reber, was a complaint filed with this board, and on what date was it filed?
Yes, on January 8th, 2026.
And what was the case number assigned?
26015 COM.
And who was the subject of the complaint?
Dustin A. Vaughn, doing business as your local construction of Emerald Coast.
And what is the address on file for Mr. Vaughn?
802 Largo Drive, Gulf Breeze, Florida, 32561.
And what is the license number of Mr. Vaughn?
RR 2828-12247. That's a state registered residential contractor.
And who is the complainant?
TJ Thompson.
During your investigation, were you able to assign any alleged violations? If so, please state the code section, your justification, and any supporting documentation.
Code Section 1837D9B, contracting beyond scope of practice allowed by license, no safety hazard. The first violation is $500. Justification, a residential contractor cannot perform work on a commercial building. My supporting documentation is Investigators Exhibit C, estimate dated August 11th, 2025, from Vaughn to the Santa Rosa Island Authority to re-roof a commercial building with a standing seam system.
Can you take us through a brief synopsis of your investigation?
On August 11th, 2025, Dustin Vaughn, doing business as your local construction of the Emerald Coast, submitted an estimate to the Santa Rosa Island Authority to re-roof a commercial office building with a standing seam roofing system. Vaughn was awarded the project and subsequently subbed the project out to a state licensed roofing contractor, Condor Construction, LLC. Condor Construction alleges that his company performed the work utilizing his own crew. A search of the permitting history on this project reveals a roof permit issued to Condor Construction on October 1st, 2025, with the final passing inspection performed on October 9th, 2025.
And board, the backup for the agenda includes Complainant's Exhibit A, the complaint, Exhibit B, the SRIA application, Exhibit C, correspondence with contractors and SRIA, Investigators Exhibit A, the notice of probable cause hearing, B, the certified return receipt, C, the contractor's proposal to the Santa Rosa Island Authority, D, the contractor's response, E, the Condor construction permit and inspection, and finally, the history of the permitting for Mr. Vaughn. Staff would request that these items be moved into evidence for this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, here, that motion is approved.
Both parties are present along with representation.
Okay. Would Mr. Vaughn like to speak to us today, or his representation?
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
My name's Steve Luongo. I'm an attorney with Clark Partington, representing Mr. Vaughn and your local construction company. Since this complaint was filed in January of 26, there's been a civil litigation complaint filed in Escambia County on the 24th of February. So that precludes us in the matter of keeping our legal interest and defenses open to presenting evidence and testimony, which we do have. We do believe that we have defenses to this claim and the evidence submitted, as well as, if not defenses, full defenses. We have certainly significant mitigation that should be apprised and presented before the board. However, with the ongoing litigation, it would be improper to present that evidence now before your hearing. We would ask for these proceedings to be stayed for an indeterminate amount of time for that civil procedure and lawsuit to be rectified so that we can present a case before the board here today.
Ms. Christie, we are not civil. We are in a different realm. Please enlighten us.
Right, you are, you're correct. And you can, and whatever happens in the civil world does not necessarily affect
right
where this case goes and your probable cause findings. You already have evidence before you. You could take, not necessarily testimony, but you could hear from the attorney who may want to, who could state his client's position. He could certainly do that, but also, you know, it makes sense that his client would not give a sworn statement at this point when litigation is pending. So that's up to the board. You may want to know how long they anticipate the litigation will exist. You may want more information from Jennifer Hampton or your investigator regarding what's the situation, who's the victim here. I believe, if I recall correctly, this is a roofing that occurred at Santa Rosa Island Authority, and that roof did pass inspection. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. So this project does involve the Santa Rosa Island Authority, who is also a named co-defendant with us in that lawsuit. That lawsuit is not brought on behalf of any workmanship issues or any faulty there. There's a multi-count lawsuit involving criminal conspiracy, injunction relief, and a host of other charges that we find are invalid and without cause. So we are going to take the proper necessary precautions to respond to that legally. If not at a proceeding standpoint, we certainly feel that we have a strong case to dismiss those counts at a motion for summary judgment once evidence is submitted in that civil case. I do understand and identify the complexity of the hearing here today and the quagmire that we're in. I can answer as many questions as I can on behalf of Mr. Vaughn and your local construction company with the evidence that's been presented to me, if that will help enlighten the board and kind of apprise them on the full situation, which I think is important for them to have.
Do you have any, and this is probably a very opening question, time frame?
That's a dangerous question.
Yeah.
When, right now we have not been served. The lawsuit was filed on the 24th. I first became aware of it when it was posted on a social media post. Mr. Vaughn and your local construction has not been properly served yet. I am aware that Santa Rosa Island Authority has been served. They are preparing their defense and answer to that as we speak. There are at least 3 other parties. Mr. Gomez with Candor Construction was also personally named, as well as his company. Mr. Vaughn was personally named, as well as his company as well. I don't believe Mr. Candor's been served yet. I don't know that to be certain, but we don't have any evidence that he has been. So with that being said, typically a civil case will take about a year and a half to resolve.
One of the things, and I think we might be able to reach to the county here, our staff, to get some help with this. The case before us is the fact that a residential contractor cannot perform work on a commercial building.
That is correct, Chair. So in this instance, and result of the investigation, Mr. Vaughn provided an estimate for a re-roof of a commercial building. Mr. Vaughn's license is a state-registered residential contractor, and that re-roof of a commercial building is outside of the scope of the license that he holds.
So that's the focus of our efforts here, not necessarily the civil litigation part. Ours is, he is a registered residential contractor. Outside of that scope is commercial work, commercial roofing. So that's the core of what we're looking at today, regardless of who's hurt and who's not. That's the core of what we're looking at. Is this correct, Ms. Christie?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It's from what I understand about this, it is the Santa Rosa Island Authority Visitor Center is what was re-roofed.
Right, which is a commercial building.
Which is a commercial building. And from what, and I haven't looked all the way through the exhibits, and they certainly have, they can tell you who, it appears from the record that he bid on it at the behest of Santa Rosa Island.
That's what I was going to bring up.
And
He was
he
asked
did
to
not
by
do the
Britain.
roofing job itself.
Pardon?
He did not do the roofing job.
Right. He subbed it out.
So you may want to hear from your complainant before you decide much,
Right.
where you want.
I'm just trying to establish the contract that your local construction of the Emerald Coast put together was to do work that is outside the scope allowed by his license. That's the complaint.
That is what is within our code section.
So regardless if he subbed it to XYZ company that is licensed, his with the owner is the part that's in question.
Accurate. He provided an estimate for work he could not perform.
That's right.
Under his license.
I just want to make sure the board understands, because it looks a little convoluted here. So I want to make sure the board understands. That's the.
Was the permit pulled? And if so, was the permit pulled under a residential contractor?
Permit was obtained by contractor with the required
They
license.
wouldn't let him pull a permit.
Okay.
He would not be allowed to pull a permit. But the fact that he gave an estimate and got the job outside of his scope.
I will bring up on the screen this communication from Santa Rosa Island Authority. This is actually communication from an employee of Santa Rosa Island Authority to your local construction requesting a quote.
Which again, we don't know. It's out of our scope today to know if she knew his license capabilities, etc. That is upon the responsibility of the license holder, not somebody asking you. If somebody asks you to do a job, they don't know if you have the proper license or not. It's your responsibility to say, that is not in my license scope.
I believe that what Mr. Longo is trying to explain to the board today, and I apologize if I put words in your mouth, is that he can't put on a proper defense for his client.
Right.
Civil case. And that's why I wanted to make sure if we don't have anybody from the Santa Rosa Island Authority present,
we do, right?
Your sworn witness can tell you whether or not the roof that was put on passed inspection and what the situation is, what is the status, and then you want to hear from from your complainant to find out where they are on this as well, because they may have more insight that you're not getting, because so far all you had is the evidence that's been presented.
But to stay focused on what the actual complaint is, it's not whether or not the roof was done correctly, and it's not whether or not it was permitted or inspected. It's the fact that a person contracted outside of their scope of work.
Right. I only bring that information to your attention because I know that at this point, Mr. Luongo is basically asking you for a
Right.
So I'm just pointing out the things that we have had contractors, and we have sat on these meetings before where we had contractors who were doing things that left people in horrible situations.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
And I don't think, I just want to make sure when someone asks for a continuance that although we don't have to follow what's happening, and you don't have to follow what's happening in the civil courts, just keep in mind that you do want to allow somebody due process of law and the
Right.
ability to present.
We don't have a homeowner who's been hurt and affected by poor workmanship, et cetera.
Right, and that's why I point out this is a situation that when you consider whether or not you want to continue this or you want to move forward on this,
Right.
you don't have somebody that's the building that was roofed is the defendant in the civil case, so they're going to have trouble also.
Right. But again, our scope goes back. That's why I'm trying to make sure the board understands that's not the questions. The question is not, was it roofed properly? The question was, did somebody that's not in their scope of license bid on, sign a contract to do work that's outside of their realm? That's the whole.
Right, but the question that's before you right now is whether or not Mr. Longo can have a continuance.
Understood.
And you would want to hear from the other party.
We will.
Okay, just making.
I'm just making sure we understand what the continuance, how it affects our scope.
Yes, sir.
We're not affected by
Lawsuits.
the lawsuit of, John Doe, we'll call, that might have a complaint.
No, sir.
This is another scope is what we're looking at.
Yes, sir. Your scope is narrower than the civil lawsuit.
Right.
The civil lawsuit does encompass the bidding process.
Oh, I'm sure it would. Yeah, it's going to cover everything you can. You guys know how to do that, right? That's part of your job. So I just want to make sure we had that together. Anything else you would like to tell us?
Not at this time, no, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And Mr. Thompson, you and your counsel.
Morning. My name is Dennis Green. I'm an attorney. I represent Mr. T.J. Thompson, Shorebreak Metal, Island Time Builders. And I think the board's hitting right on the correct position here. This has nothing to do with anything about, fraudulent, notice of acceptance that was sent into the county with the bids stating it was a Drexel metal roof, so on and so forth. This is simply, did a registered residential contractor bid for a roof on a commercial building? Did they invoice for it? And did they get paid for it? And the answer is yes, yes, yes. I think a stay would be improper. The board's not going to get into the particulars and the minutia of the civil litigation like we are. Clearly here, the only thing that's being looked at is what license does he have? Was he allowed to do that contracting? Did he perform that? That's it. So I think a stay would be improper at this time. Litigation right now, heck, it could go on for 2-3 years. Who knows? Even though the Florida Supreme Court's trying to put their foot down on that and set case deadlines and management orders that are pretty strictly complied with. Right now, I think we're pushing 2 years. So we would just ask that a stay not be enforced.
Anybody have any questions for the council? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So, can we have some wisdom words, Ms. Christie?
No, I have no wisdom.
You have wisdom. You're careful with how you disperse your wisdom.
So what I've heard from today, and I have limited experience in civil law, but what I've heard today is that so far there hasn't been service of the documents that need to be served on the defendants. Is that correct, Mr. Luongo? Your client hasn't been served, and that's what triggers the time. Once that happens, then the time starts, the deadlines start.
Correct. We'll have 20 days to file an answer or responsive pleadings.
Okay. So, and do we know how long or when did they start their case?
It was filed on February 24th. I believe the Santa Rosa Island Authority might be the only party that has been served.
Okay. So, you. Yes. Yes. Thanks. By the way, we have Jeff Broderson here.
Yeah, I was going to get you introduced him earlier, and I forgot. My fault.
Jeff Broderson is our new Steve West, our new attorney that took Steve West's position. And Jeff does have experience in much more experience in the civil world. I was used to just putting people behind the bars. So that's what we're talking about is they have up to a year to serve the second party. And that hasn't occurred yet. So it could be a lengthy, it can be a lengthy process. What's in front of you now is, can you do due process based on the information that you have and without without the person being able to defend himself, based on the civil case and the advice of his counsel? So do you want to
civil
continue
case which is not yet officially proceeded, but good chance it will be.
I anticipate that it will be.
Yeah.
Do we have any additional open permits on the Emerald Coast?
For Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
So there are no expired permits. There are only 3 open active permits.
They're all residential?
I would have to confirm that, but I will tell you, the license is confirmed before we issue a permit. So I could safely assume that they are within the scope of his license.
Mr. Paul?
My concern or question is, can a registered residential contractor sign a contract or engage in work for a commercial building and not do the work? I mean, can he contract at all and negotiate or enter?
I think by Florida law, he is not supposed to, he's not allowed to engage in a contract outside of that scope of work that
No matter if he performs work or not,
it don't matter.
He's not allowed to engage in the work.
Because he becomes the contractor that's over that. So for sakes of, going up the ladder, they call, he can sub it, but he can't, if his scope covers. In other words, if he's able to do commercial work, period, like if he was a building contractor, the next level. Residential is simply residential.
So I would like to draw your attention to your screen. This is from Florida Statute 489. These are the definitions and scopes of licenses.
There you go. C.
You see item C there. Residential contractor means a contractor whose services are limited to construction, remodeling, repair, or improvement of 1 family, 2 family, or 3 family residences not exceeding 2 habitable stories above no more than 1 uninhabitable story, and accessory use structures and connections in connection therewith. So that is the scope of what that license can do.
So as a comparison, you look at B, the first thing is limited commercial and the residential.
Well, I'm differentiating between services and contracting. And so the services, it could be construed that that's the work of putting the roof on, and contracting, signing an agreement. So in the CGC world, I think it's clear that you can't sign a contract for commercial work if you're a residential CRC. But I don't have that knowledge of whether the registered.
Historically, of the cases I've heard of, you can't have a contractual agreement outside of your scope.
Okay.
Regardless if you pass it on to somebody.
And is there an agreement made?
Yes. He has a contract, everything.
I mean, to me, that's as black and white as you can get.
So just to verify, a residential contractor cannot hire a commercial subcontractor to do a commercial job.
Right, you cannot, under state law and county ordinance, you cannot contract beyond the level of your license. So even if you were going to get someone to do, because you're ultimately responsible as the contractor. So a general contractor can contract for anything that a general contractor. Residential can only contract for anything that a residential. So residential can't do commercial. And from what I understand from this case, it's a situation where he even though he did contract for it, it was something where he reached out. He was contacted by Santa Rosa Island Authority to do the work. This is not a bidding process. Santa Rosa Island Authority, there's a threshold. And so normally so if you were above that threshold, then you would put out for bid. And when you put out for bid, then you'd get quotes from whoever submitted them. But this is a situation that was below that threshold. And being below that threshold, they were able to reach out to contractors and ask contractors for bids. And then they, as a responsible government entity, they would they would take the lowest bid. So that's the situation. The lowest quote, not a bid, because this was not put out for bid.
So to answer your question, yes, but residential is limited to residential. There's 3 categories: general, building, and residential. General is unlimited. Building is commercial and residential up to 3 stories. Residential is simply residential. Nothing in the commercial realm. Up to 3 stories.
Thank you.
It's kind of a short version. It's deeper than that, but. So, yes, Mr. Paul, yeah.
And I should clarify, when I say due process, I'm not talking about procedural due process. If you allow his attorney to speak for him, he could still put on a defense. You're just not going to be able to hear from Mr. Vaughn.
So let me ask you this. So again, going back to the focus, signing a contract outside of the scope allowed. Would they be able to answer that, his counsel, any questions without meddling into the civil? And maybe your partner can help us with that some too. I mean, what's...
You'd have to ask his attorney and see if he's comfortable with that.
So you understand what we're trying to...
If you could re-ask it, I would.
Okay. So we're trying to do the zero-in focus and not catch all that's going on around it.
Yes, sir.
The focus of a residential contractor signed a contract, implemented the contract, finished the contract, got paid for the contract outside of his scope of work.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you be able to give us any input in just that arena? We're not trying to get into all the civil stuff. That's not where we belong.
Yes, sir. I mean, some of the statements that I would touch on are part of the evidence, and I feel comfortable discussing that. Part of it is the quote process of why we're there. Obviously, this complaint was not made by the person who paid for our services,
right,
got the roof done.
It's a third party.
It's made by somebody else who lost out on that process, and now they're angry, right? So that's why we're here today.
Right.
Again, I think the evidence supports it and shows it that Mr. Vaughn, he didn't proactively seek this job. It was sought upon him, and it was performed by somebody who was licensed to perform the work. So those, while they may not be complete defenses under law, they are certainly mitigating factors that I think is important for the board to hear. And that's kind of the crux of what I would go into in a more elaborate sense if the board would need it or want it to. And certainly we could have the Island Authority here and give a statement if they would be so moved to do, either through council or their director. I've had communications with them as well, discussing the project, discussing this complaint, discussing the lawsuit.
So Mr. Paul broke it right in, and this is probably the main crux of where we would be looking at. And would you be able to offer input into the fact that, they were asked by a party that we don't know if they know what kind of license he has or not. That's not, that's not our scope. But it was accepted by a gentleman that is not able to do that scope of work. So what we want to know is, the process. Did he not even know that he couldn't do it? Well, and there's a lot of veins off of that.
There are, and I'm not trying to be coy.
No. We're being careful.
Answer it without
being careful. Both of us, yes, sir.
There is a bit of ignorance, I guess, as far as that, and there's a little bit of again, it was being proactively asked upon us, and we went through the proper channels to, one, have it permitted, two, have it performed, and a happy customer. So I think again, it's retroactively going back to what you're asking as far as the initial scope and the ability to bid on that process. As the world moves, and as all of y'all know, it's a fast-moving process, and I think that's there is a little bit of ignorance there, but certainly nothing to avoid it. There was no malfeasance, no fraud, or anything of that nature that I think should be considered upon when y'all are making your probable cause, and if so, disciplinary hearing as well.
So I know I'm not trying to tie you down, but I am trying to zero. Would y'all be able to address testimony, whatever you call, the fact of operating outside of that without compromising?
Yes, sir. There's been several good discussions brought up today. One thing that I personally would like to do as representation would look into any precedent that Mr. Sims brought up as far as services versus contracting, see if there are any gray areas there, the determination of the building as well. Those are things that I have not had time to prepare for, given the short notice of the hearing. They may be fruitless efforts, but they're certainly something that I would like to do as well as far as legal counsel and presenting the board a full scope of what we can do and answer the questions.
So you could present that at a disciplinary hearing for us to decide whether or not there is a reason to discipline or not to discipline. You think that's something that would not compromise?
As far as legal precedent and findings, yes, that's certainly something I could do. As far as moving it to the stages, and I apologize about my unfamiliarity with the process, and once a case moves to the disciplinary hearings, I don't know. I know that the penalty up there is a fine of $500. I don't know if there's any discretion in that or not. It may be black and white, as Mr. Sims says. So it may be something that you don't want to hear upon, but it's certainly things that I think, in order for us to present a full case, we would want to look into.
See, there's a dual role we're at here. We want to respect where you guys are at in the civil thing, but at the same time, we owe it to the citizens of Escambia County to make sure that our licensed contractors perform properly.
Yes, sir.
This is a minor thing compared to some of the stuff we hear. Obviously.
Yes, and I don't take that lightly. Yes, sir. Yes.
But at the same time, we have to be consistent. If not, we'll have every John Doe out here contracting for stuff and, really getting in a mess then. So we have to be consistent for our citizens at the same time. So that's why I'm trying to. So I think we're hearing enough. Anything else you say with that?
No, sir, and I sympathize, obviously, with the board. It is a unique circumstance from what I've heard today,
right.
Given the complexity of a civil lawsuit out there.
Right. Thank you, then.
Yes, sir.
So we just need to decide, do we go ahead and go to disciplinary and allow them to bring information to us? Do we postpone this a month and see where everything shakes out? I mean, what all are...
So you had a motion, basically a motion to continue, and it sounded indefinite. The board does not sound like they're in favor of doing that. So then you would want to deny the motion to continue if the board is not in favor of that, and then have someone determine that whether or not there is probable cause to put forward a motion, whether or not there is probable cause to take this to disciplinary. If Mr. Luongo needs more than a month, he may request more than a month to prepare for a disciplinary hearing. There are additional considerations that that sentencing that is available under our Escambia County Code that we can make you aware of. The final paragraph in the disciplinary, we can make you aware of that. Give you Jennifer has all of that information, because there's other things that can play into this. So that would be the thing. So if he feels like he needs more than a month to prepare, then the board would want to consider that. If you're not going to allow him an indefinite continuance at this time.
And I will tell.
And if you're going to find probable cause.
And I will tell both parties that historically this board, when we moved into anything, if there was a real contentious area of the civil, we've been respectful at times and actually backed off at that moment. So we're very conscious of that. Ms. Jennifer, was there?
I was just going to correct myself because I do that often. We're talking 2 months, not 1 month for disciplinary. So you would have 2 months to prepare for disciplinary.
And what Christy's speaking about is the proper time to draft the administrative complaint, get it reviewed, and have time to meet the timing requirements of notice.
Right.
So it does take a couple of months to get that.
Gotcha. So the first order would be, we were asked for a continuance, no time frame of this whole case. So I need a motion of whether or not to do that, to accept or to deny.
So I'll make a motion to deny the continuance with no time frame.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. Okay. Secondly, do we have probable cause to move this into disciplinary hearing?
I'll make a motion to move it to disciplinary hearing.
Okay.
Second.
And I have a second. Okay. Discussion. Does anybody have any questions or?
This will allow them enough time to get whatever we need to us, and I think you mentioned 60 days, usually 2 months from now.
Yes, sir. Mr. Patel, it does take about 2 months. It would be queued up for the next hearing 2 months from now, yes.
Understood. Thank you.
And then you'd want to know, is that sufficient for Mr. Luongo to prepare a defense for this?
Would that be sufficient? Thank you.
Do we have a date for that?
I can give that to you. That would be the May 6th hearing.
Okay.
And Mr. Luongo, if you have any questions regarding the remainder of the penalties that are available to this board, you can contact the BID. Jennifer Hampton can give you those additional.
Anybody else here have any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. Motion is approved, not unanimously. All right. That ends our probable cause, and we will move into disciplinary hearings. Thank you guys for your time.
I need to make a record for Ms. Jordan. I believe that she's recused herself in this. I know that Mr. Lister, you were not made aware of that, but we'll get the proper forms.
I was not aware of that.
Okay.
I thought she was just taking a break. Well deserved. Well deserved break. I'm just kidding.
Understood.
Okay.
Our next item, we're moving into disciplinary hearings now. This first one is Saul D. Spade, doing business as LM Construction and Roofing LLC. State certified license number CGC 1535248. Contractor Competency Board complaint number 250876 COM. It's in regard to Melissa Shea, the complainant, 7170 Klondike Road, Pensacola, Florida 32526. Mr. Spade, are you present today? For the record, Mr. Spade is not present. Ms. Shea, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing today? At this time, I'm going to go ahead and have you sworn, and just a reminder that Ms. Reber remains sworn. So I'm bringing up the administrative complaint in this case. At the probable cause hearing, the board determined that there was probable cause to believe that the respondent violated Code Section 1837 C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud, deceit, or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. The board cited that the respondent received funds for the project, performed unpermitted work on the project, and failed to complete portions of the project that funds were provided for. Code Section 1837 C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days. Board cited that the respondent failed to perform any work on the project after the stop work order was issued and exceeded a period of 90 days. Code Section 1837 D15C, job finished without a permit having been pulled, or no permit until caught after job, or late permit during the job, resulting in missed inspection or inspections. Board cited that the respondent failed to obtain the required permitting for the roof replacement and truss repairs. Just a reminder to this board that this contractor is a state certified contractor, and the board is limited in disciplinary action to suspension or revocation of permitting privileges.
And Mr. Spade was not here for the probable cause hearing either, correct?
Not been present at either hearing.
Gotcha. Ms. Shea, would you like to address the board?
This action caused by this contractor and the one allowing and continues to allow Logan Martin to pull permits in other counties is causing severe financial hardships to families like mine. This has caused us to have to sell our home in Maryland and relocate. I want you to understand that this is a really serious matter, and just to slap on the wrist that he can't pull permits in one county, I'd like to see this escalated to DBPR and have this noted. So he needs to be stopped. He's hurting a lot of families in this county, and that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. So count one, 1837 C11, finding.
Chair, before we go through the counts, I would like to, all the testimony provided at the probable cause hearing, as well as all of the evidence at the probable cause hearing. We did not receive any new evidence, and of course, we just received new testimony. But I would like all of those items from the probable cause hearing be moved into evidence for this hearing.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. Would you like to go through the counts with us?
Yes, sir. Count one, does the board find the Does the board find the respondent in violation of Code Section 1837 C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting?
Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to find in violation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved.
Count two, does the board find the respondent in violation of Code Section 1837 C8, termination of a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract shall be considered to have been abandoned after 90 days?
Make a motion to find in violation of count two.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved.
Count three, does the board find the respondent in violation of Code Section 1837 D15C, job finished without a permit having been pulled, or no permit until caught after job, or late permit during the job resulting in missed inspection or inspections?
Make a motion final in violation of count three.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. Now, we're limited
Penalty.
to,
In your last paragraph there, this board is limited in what disciplinary action they can take, and it's only relative to permitting privileges in Escambia County.
so we can revoke his privileges for permitting. Can we make a recommendation to the CILB?
You would take that and do your recommendation after you determine your disciplinary action.
Right, but we can include the,
If you want to combine the two together, you can, and make one motion. That is up to the board.
So make a motion to revoke any licensing
permitting privileges.
permitting privileges for Escambia County, and also make a recommendation to the BPR.
Yeah, CILB.
CILB of the same.
Second.
So your recommendation to the CILB would be in regard to his license?
Correct.
So to clarify, that would be revocation of permitting
Revocation.
privileges here, and then revocation of license to the CILB. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, on your revocation, if you make the decision that if the board concurs that it should be a revocation of the contractor's certificate of competency and their ability to pull the permits in Escambia County, then it would be no less than a year and no more than 5 for revocation. So you'll have to make a determination of how long you want that revocation to stand.
1 to 5 years.
More than 5 years.
1, 2, 5.
Oh, 5 years.
You're limited.
But now,
So permanent revocation can be determined by this board, but it has to be a unanimous decision of the board.
okay, so
Right, so-
I'm gonna,
Let me hold you up on that. When you do that, you have to determine that they were, that the case or conduct constituted egregious circumstances, and the contractor competency board is convinced that the safety of the public demands permanent revocation. So you need to make a finding as to the safety of the public and the egregious circumstances. You may want a record made of that by your prosecutor or your witness, based on the previous evidence that's already been introduced. You want to put, you'll have to bring it up. If that's where this board wants to go.
so we'll make a recommendation for 5 years, revocation for 5 years.
So I have a motion to revoke permitting privileges for 5 years.
Second.
And a recommendation to the CILB for revocation of license.
That is correct.
Okay. And I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. It is unanimous for
So I just want to clarify for the board that they have, there was 3 counts involved, and the unanimous decision of the board is that for those 3 counts, it'll be a 5-year suspension to cover all 3 counts.
All 3
I mean, a
counts.
5-year revocation to cover all 3 counts.
Correct.
Thank you.
Get them all at one time.
That concludes that disciplinary hearing. Our next item is Brett Smith, doing business as Apex Plumbing LLC, state registered license number RF 11067884, contractor competency board complaint number 250993COM. It's in regard to Frank Janacek, the complainant at 1815 Klondike Road, Pensacola, Florida 32503. Mr. Smith, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony? And Mr. Janacek, are you present today? Mr. Janacek is not present. At this time, I'm going to have Mr. Smith sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, so count ones.
I'm going to take you through the administrative complaint really quick. At the probable cause hearing, board determined that was probable cause to believe that the respondent violated Code Section 1837 D15C, proceeding on any job without obtaining applicable local building department permits and/or inspections, job finished without a permit having been pulled. Board cited that the respondent violated this code section by failing to obtain the required permitting prior to completing the plumbing installation. Penalty guidelines, because this is a locally licensed contractor, state registered, for this violation would be a first violation of $500 to a $1,500 fine. Mr. Smith is present today. There was one additional item added to this agenda, along with the testimony provided at the probable cause hearing and the items provided at the probable cause hearing. So staff would request that those items be moved into evidence for this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
The new item is the actual past final plumbing inspection that was performed on February 18th, 2026. So just to draw your attention to that additional one item. Again, Mr. Smith is present, if you'd like to hear an update from him.
Mr. Smith, would you like to address the board on this?
Oh, did we swear Mr. Smith in?
You did.
Okay.
This is the Brett Smith. This is the permit that like slipped through the cracks on us. We filled it for the venting, went out there, fixed the vent, and it's passed inspection. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. We went. Yeah. I don't know. I ain't good at all this talking.
Now if we remember correctly, you were given the opportunity to get with the owner and make it right, and you did.
Yes, sir.
But the permit was not pulled?
It was pulled. I just didn't have it pass inspection before the court date or the hearing date. So it's like we got our inspection and then.
So just a reminder. Mr. Smith applied for the permit and it went unpaid, correct? Yes.
Yeah, so
it went unpaid.
Yeah.
And so then at his first hearing, he paid for the permit, you continued it, give him time to get the inspection. And inspection failed, needed corrections, and he ultimately passed that inspection just after our last board meeting.
So it is passed and finalized?
At this time, it is a passed inspection.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Smith? Okay, thank you.
So to take you to the count one, does the board find the respondent in violation of Code Section 1837 D15C, proceeding on any job without obtaining the applicable local building department permits and/or inspections, job finished without a permit having been pulled?
I know this case has been going on for a little bit now, right? So I may have missed a meeting or two, but from what I'm understanding, it was a timing issue. And that we had our meeting and we moved it into disciplinary, and then he went ahead and paid and everything was.
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
So everything is finished and finalized out now?
That is correct. In your backup documentation, there is the past inspection report.
Right.
So our options here today are to
find him not guilty.
Yeah.
Or if he is violation, not guilty.
Mhm.
But if he is in violation, then some type of fine or whatever is chosen, if there is any. Need some wisdom.
It
So-
says,
Go ahead, Mr. Waters.
go ahead, go.
I was just gonna, the language is very clear, on the code. Is the job finished without a permit having been pulled, or no permit until caught after job, or late permit during the job resulting in missed inspection or inspections. Your first violation is $500 to $1,500.
Okay.
And in this situation, suspension and revocation, I don't think she has it in here, but in this situation, suspension and revocation is not one of the, it's specifically not included in this section, because it would be, if it were a second or subsequent suspicion, the fine and suspension or revocation would be required.
And the minimum penalty is $500 and the maximum is $1,500.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Waters?
I was going to ask about the penalty. We have to do the minimum 500 as a minimum, or can we just say we're not doing it?
I don't know who would appeal.
It doesn't look like we have an option, but I just wanted to ask.
Let me look. I think the board has a lot of discretion And usually these things come down to is, if he's found in violation, you could do two things. You could find him not in violation now that everything's been brought into code. That's really, couldn't be challenged by anybody. You could find that he did violate, and you want to do the $500 fine. I think this board has discretion to determine if they believe that a fine is appropriate in the given circumstances. If you want to find that he is in violation, but you don't think that a fine would be appropriate because it just doesn't reach that level of violation, I think this board has that kind of discretion.
I'll make a motion to find him in violation, but no fine.
Second.
So I have a motion in violation of Escambia County Code Section 1837D15C with no penalty. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign.
The only other item before this board for this hearing is the CILB recommendation.
Do we have any recommendations?
Your options are listed in that final sentence of this paragraph. It can be for no further action, a fine, suspension, revocation, restrictions, or any combination thereof.
Motion for him to have no further action.
I'll second that.
That's right. All in favor? Raise your right hand. I think, Mr. Smith, you've learned the situation here. This has been a tough one, but hopefully this is one in the past, never come back. We don't want to see you. All right. Thank you.
That concludes that disciplinary hearing. Our last item today is Aaron Burgess doing business as PAR Church Builders, Inc., State Certified License Number CBC 1258877, Contractor Competency Board Complaint Number 2512119, COM. It's in regard to Pastor Will Stone, First Baptist Church of Cantonment, the complainant at 298 Morris Avenue, Cantonment, Florida 32533. Mr. Burgess, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing? And Pastor Stone, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing? Thank you. At this time, I'm going to have both parties sworn. Well, and just a reminder, Ms. Reber remains sworn. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. I'm going to bring up the administrative complaint for this hearing. At the probable cause hearing, the board determined that whether there was probable cause to believe that the respondent violated Code Section 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. The board cited that the respondent violated that code section by falsifying invoices and lien releases for the project to obtain draw money, and failing to install the required stormwater management systems, resulting in violations. Also, Code Section 1837C6, financial mismanagement or misconduct in the practice of contracting that causes financial harm to a customer. The board cited that the respondent violated Code Section by failing to pay equipment rental companies for equipment, subcontractors for work performed, and suppliers for materials.
And again, this is a certified, so we can't, there's no fining, look, only permitting privileges.
That is correct. Any action would be against the respondent's permitting privileges within Escambia County.
Okay. Mr. Burgess, would you like to speak to the board?
My name's Aaron Burgess. I live at 394 Old Phoenix Road, Eatonton, Georgia, 31024. First of all, I apologize to even have to be here, and it's very difficult for me. 2008, I was hired by Park Church Builders, who was owned by my uncle, and my employment terminated there in 2018. Since then, unbeknownst to me, he has been pulling contract permits under my name. One that I can find, and this one being with Mr. Stone. Up until today, I didn't even know what Mr. Stone looked like. And I didn't know it until he just recognized himself. I had no idea. I've never been to this church. I've never been anywhere on this property and had no knowledge of what was going on as far as financially or contracting. After I left Park Church Builders, I continued contracted in the state of Georgia, residentially, and I also started a commercial door and hardware company. So to say that I did not know that this church project was going on would not be true. I did provide the commercial door and hardware for this project, to which I have not been compensated for. However, that is not the church's problem. That was between me and my uncle. And I did not even know that there was a problem until Pastor Stone contacted me and told me that he was missing some materials from the door side and asked me would I send them, in which I did, even though, again, I did not get paid for them from the contractor that was there. It was not until later of last year that I got notice from Ms. Reber that there was a problem and my name was involved. So when I see this respondent, Aaron Burgess, doing business as Park Church Builders, is very disheartening, because I never owned the company. I was employed by the company, and I did take the contractor's exam and qualified that company. My failure was to change my license status to inactive, which I did immediately as soon as I found out. I withdrew my privileges in Escambia County for this contractor to pull permits, as well as I contacted an attorney last week after I got this notification that I would be required to be here today. And he said, well, your state license is not revoked either. And I said, I didn't realize that. So I did that immediately, and I have those documents for each of you here. I went on, during that tenure at Park Church Builders, we were licensed in 6 states. I was the qualifying agent, and I took all the tests and exams for all of those states. I have since instructed my staff to go and file revocation for every licensing. We only found one to be active, and that was in the state of Georgia, which we revocated we revocated it on Monday. This is a failure of mismanagement on my part to inactivate my license. I've seen some of the documents that was provided to the county to obtain this permit. I do believe I understand how they got there. In early 2016, I believe, there was a permit pulled in Escambia County for a Liberty Church. It was during that tenure I was invoking my exit strategy. I'd been with the building company for a long time. I was going through a divorce at the time and starting another company, didn't want to travel, had young children. And so I was on a very limited basis for the last 2 years. I did sign on a form from Escambia County to pull that permit. I expediently exited the company almost a year early because of some of the business practice that was happening. And that particular incident ended up in a lawsuit. So I actually seen a copy of my license in one of these documents that I was like, how did they get my license that was issued in 22? And it was because of that lawsuit. But I did not sign for this. And I apologize to the church, and I'm devastated by the actions that happened. But my name, in my opinion, shouldn't be there. It should be Wayman Harden, which is the owner of the company. At this time, I'd be glad to take questions, and I'd show you as soon as I found out what I did to try to revocate it. Try to satisfy this.
I think I heard you say that you understand it now, but
sure.
By the fact that you were the licensee qualifier,
yes, sir,
automatically you are responsible.
I understand that.
You say you provided the doors?
I did.
And at what time in the process was that you didn't know that your license was on the line for it then?
No, sir. I did not know that. I did not know that he had hired 3 other people after I left, and I was told that 2 of those people went and sat for the test and actually obtained license for the state of Florida, Georgia, and as well as Massachusetts.
your uncle ordered the doors from you?
He did.
That's really strange. So, how long ago was it that you got the doors? I'm just trying to see. I've actually seen this church. I built a house around the corner from it. I
Yes, sir.
observed them working over there. So how long ago was it for the
That I-
doors?
That I supplied the doors to
Right.
the church? I'm going out with just a complete memory. I think the initial order, it comes in phases. It would come in frames, and then I believe he ordered pre-hungs and then doors and hardware, maybe sometime in July, August, maybe.
And you say you haven't been paid?
I have not.
Did you file a lien?
I did not.
Do you normally file liens when you don't get paid?
I do normally, but honestly, since I've been in the door and hardware business, I've only been not paid one other time. And I did file a lien in that thing, but I would not ever file a lien against the church.
Okay, that's personal preference, I guess.
No, it's a
Do
personal
that.
conviction.
Yeah.
I do not
It's
conduct
still
business.
a commercial business, even though it's a church.
I understand that.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Burgess?
I do. What kind of business relationship do you have with your uncle?
None.
Just, you just bought doors from him because he called you up, or?
I've only sold him doors 3 times since I've been in business. This was one of them. This was a church, and he knew I did. I guess I don't know what he does outside of that. But my understanding with my uncle right now is he's in a dire straits of financial strain, obviously due to his actions. I think he's almost homeless. I have not been in any type of business relationship with him since 2018.
Thank you.
So you have revoked your own license? Is that what you said you did for the state of Florida?
I think the correct term is to move them to an active status.
An active status, yeah.
In Georgia, it was a disassociation with that company.
Well, unfortunately, it again goes back to, in Florida, the one that is the licensee.
Yes, sir.
And we deal with this probably too much in here. That people who are the licensed feel like they've been taken advantage of by an owner of a company that they qualified, but ultimately they are the responsible party.
I understand.
And I can understand from what you're saying, I wouldn't want my name there either, but at the end of the day, it does fall back to you.
I understand.
So count one, again, all we're able to do here is permitting privileges.
That is correct. Mr. Burgess is state certified, so you are limited in what you can do.
You also have another witness present that you may, I don't know if you.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make sure we stay in line here.
And you've already said you've revoked your Florida license.
I moved it to inactive.
Moved it to
status.
inactive.
Yes, sir.
Did you say you have copies of that?
I do. I don't know how many copies you need, but I got it.
See if it works. They can change.
Okay, if no other questions for Mr. Burgess, thank you, sir. Mr. Stone.
That's fine, we'll share.
Where did I get a copy?
Name and address? Will Stone, 2523 Avalon Street, Cantonment, 32533.
Mr. Stone, what all would you like to tell us today?
I just want to make sure I heard the question about filing a lien against the church, because church has paid every bill we've ever been submitted. In fact, I paid numerous bills 2 times. So I don't want us to leave here today thinking that we haven't paid for these doors, because these doors were paid for. The person we paid that's supposed to be paying his subcontractors just didn't pay his bills. You know, I agree with Mr. Burgess. I've never met Mr. Burgess before in my life. We've talked on the phone a couple of times. When we got to the door part of our church building, I tracked down through invoices where the doors came from, got in contact with him. He, I don't know what happened with the doors initially were sent to us. For all I know, Mr. Harden took them with him when he left town. That wouldn't surprise me at all either. I just know that Wes Harden and Par Church Builders are going to do a lot of harm wherever they go. They have hurt this church. We've had to go back and reborrow another $500,000 to try to finish a building. We're still in the process of trying to get done in a building we should have been in a year and a half ago. And it's brought a hardship on us, and whoever he touches is going to bring a hardship on them. I understand we're not going to get a penny out of this thing, and that's not the thing. It's just a point of him hurting someone else, whether it's here in Escambia County. We have filed with the state as well on this, and so I just want to make sure he doesn't do to other people what he's done to us. And so that's why I'm here. I'm like you guys. I could be doing a lot of other things this morning, but just to make sure that somebody else hasn't done the same harm that's been done to our church and our congregation.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Pastor, clarification. When I asked him if he filed a lien, what I was getting at was, if I wasn't paid and I file a lien, I'm going to find out who the license holder, who the contractor is on this job. I was trying to establish
I thought
whether.
that it will, because other people that have filed, that we get the notices that they're filing against, you know, when they start sending invoices in, they'll send something saying, okay, and so I've had a couple of mechanical liens for his rental equipment company. There's another company that I found out just this week in Robertsdale that he owes about $3,500 to, Geocon Engineering. There was a bill that was in 2024 that he hasn't paid yet. So I get a new surprise from this guy every day. And it seems like he's just the gift that keeps on giving. Is a joke around my church. He just every day there's something else. So yes, sir. I didn't mean any disrespect about that. I just want to make sure everybody knows we're paying our bills.
Ms. Christie, you might be able to help me with this. Florida has a construction recovery fund. It's pennies. It's pennies. But you might qualify for $50,000. You can see one of us afterwards.
From what I've been told, that's residential only.
That is correct.
It's only, it doesn't include any commercial stuff. Okay.
No, so, you know, when this whole thing's going to be finished, I'm going to be in what was going to be a little over $1 million contract with Mr. Harden. It's going to end up being about $2 million. We're going to be that far behind trying to catch up with everything. This has been, you know, every day there's a bill for $3,000. It's not a couple $100. It's $2,000 or $3,000, and this thing just keeps dragging on and on and on. And again, my ultimate goal is to stop him from doing this to whomever we can stop him doing this to again.
Any other questions for Mr. Stone? Pastor Stone? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. This is not fun.
Question. Is there any way we can find out if another contractor has qualified this guy's business?
So that's what, while y'all were discussing that just a moment ago, I looked in our records to see, because Mr. Burgess mentioned that there was supposed to have been other qualifiers. So within our records, within our database for our licensed contractors, there is no other qualifier. I can also check the state if you would like.
Yeah, I don't want to hold up the meeting, but.
Okay. I'm just gonna search by the organization. Well, let me narrow that down. And so, as you can see, it's only the one. Mm-hmm. I was trying to bring up the related license for that. And then someone mentioned a Wayman Harden. W-E-Y-M-A-N. And I actually had up the application for the, it goes back because he's on as an authorization on that.
I think you hit back
Oh, did I?
by accident. Yes, ma'am. Hit search.
This out. Hit search. So no, Wayman Harden is not licensed. Now, on the permit application for Par Church Builders in this actual project, Wayman is listed as the applicant and Mr. Burgess as the contractor.
The authorized signer, I'm assuming.
And that's what I was, while all this was going on, I was looking at additional documents, and I see in October of 2025 where Mr. Burgess did remove all persons off of his license to be able to obtain in Escambia County. So his LOA, I pulled it up on the screen, and he put none. So he took all authorized persons off of his license.
It was obviously way after this project. Yeah.
This shows qualified businesses also.
Repeat that, Mr. Waters?
This website here, it shows qualified businesses also.
It can, yes. Do you want me to search Mr. Burgess to see if he qualifies?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that his uncle isn't still in there some kind of way. If you revoke your license, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the qualified business is that showing revoke.
I believe you mean for Par Church Builders?
Right.
So here's the only license. And he took it inactive, so it does confirm that it is.
Being that he's the qualifier, if he puts his license in inactive, that basically shuts down the qualified business.
That's right.
Was the application signed?
The initial application for
Well, for that permit?
for the church? Go ahead.
So once in October, when I found out there was a problem, that's when I notified Escambia County. Looking at some of these documents, that's not even my signature. I did fill out one of these forms for the Liberty Church campus in 2016, I believe. Since then, I have not filled out anything. So the document that I seen, and I don't know if I'm sure y'all got a copy of it because that's how I looked at it, but that's not my signature, and I'm assuming that document was in some way forged, some type of way. And to clarify on the payment, there has been a couple of things that Pastor has paid me for, like some extras, but what I mean is the initial door order that I know they paid him because he told me he did, and I believe him, that he didn't pay me on that, not that the church didn't pay me.
And it wouldn't be because the applicant was Mr. Hart. So on your screen, you have the initial application, which is the pre-construction. The applicant was Mr. Harden and signed. And I can pull up the previous LOA.
What about the actual building permit?
So that's the interesting thing.
That doesn't even look, that doesn't look anything like
Pre-construction.
the other signatures.
That's correct.
So this is pre-construction, but what about
Correct.
the
If you
actual?
look in the permitting history, it wasn't until the replacement contractor pulled an actual new construction permit. So they got underway under a pre-construction site permit.
Kept going.
Didn't get,
So how was they able to obtain inspections?
they got inspection under pre-construction site and inspection under pre-construction site.
Sound like we have a little loop that we need to close there then internally,
Right.
so that they can't just, without the actual permit. Because by looking at this, he's not, the uncle is not even guilty of pulling a permit because he never had a permit, building permit.
Project was initiated with a pre-construction permit, which gives them the ability to do the underground.
Right. But the structure itself.
Well, he is guilty of building. He's,
Right, but.
Yeah,
Without a permit or without.
he didn't, right. There's
But
a
not
lot of,
guilty
so
of
don't get into
signing.
the guilty
But
discussion.
not guilty of signing for a permit because it was no permit.
He didn't sign for a permit, you're correct.
Boy. Oh, the web we weave.
So our options today are,
So we can find either in violation or not in violation of these two counts. And then submit something to CILB. It's already been put inactive, so basically what we do is going to be of no effect, but it's a formality, which is good to follow through with.
I got a question, or maybe something for discussion. In each of these counts, it says misconduct, incompetency or misconduct in the practice of contracting. And that's the big question for me. Was he even contracting?
So the fine line of the law, again, y'all help me, from my experience is the license holder that qualifies the company is automatically held liable. We've had guys come in and say, we never saw the books. Well, that's your fault. Because if you are the license holder, that is your responsibility to look at the books of the company to make sure to know that it's, everything's getting paid. And if not, you're the one that's stuck out there.
Jennifer, can you make sure no one's pulling permits under my license? You know what I'm saying? It's like, how do you know?
So what triggers somebody to have the ability to pull permits under a qualifier's license is that letter of authorization. That form has to be filled out by the license holder. It can only be signed by the license holder, and we compare that signature. It is notarized, mind you, but we know stuff happens. So we compare that signature to the signature that's on a driver's license that is supplied by the license holder as well. So the LOA, Mr. Irwin, whoever you allow and put on that form, and those people have to sign that form as well. So whenever they come in and they obtain permits, we can compare their signature to the signature on the form that you provided to me. So that's what gives somebody the ability to do things under your license.
Really, it should be pretty hard, almost impossible for a contractor not to know based off of that.
If you're giving a person the ability to perform actions under your license, then you should know, yes,
Right.
sir.
Okay, so back to number 1, 1837 C11. Find that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency or misconduct in the practice of contracting. I don't necessarily think that fraud or deceit or
So before you get started on this, I need to move into evidence all the testimony, all of the backup documentation that was from the probable cause hearing. And that included that large packet that the church provided, including documentation of the invoices, liens, and things like that. So that whole packet, I need to move that into evidence for this hearing.
Do I have a motion to move all the evidence in the record?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion is approved.
May I make a suggestion as you go forward in this?
Yes, please.
I would be very clear on the record because we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about this PAR church builders and a contractor. So if you find that the contractor is or is not responsible for something, then you say it's the contractor. If it's PAR construction or PAR church builders, that you clarify. So if we're looking at fraud, even though you can't hold them accountable because that corporation is not here in front of you, but I would make the record clear whether or not it applies to the contractor or to the PAR church builder.
That's what I was trying to decipher a while ago when I was going through it. As the individual contractor, was there fraud on his part, deceit, gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct on his part, not this company, but on the contractor?
Right, and you can also recommend, although it's not here, you can, and I think we've already had this discussion, anything that you think that should be turned over to the state attorney's office for investigation, you can make that recommendation as far as PAR is concerned based on your findings, even though the weight of your determination won't affect that.
So do I have a motion on count one as in violation or not in violation?
You want me to read it in really quickly?
Please.
As to count one, does the board find the respondent in violation of Code Section 1837, C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting?
Should it be, I'm sorry, but should it be PAR church builders rather than a contractor?
So our administrative complaint solely relates to the contractor.
Understood.
Aaron Burgess is the one.
It's one and the same, right? He qualified the business, and as the business contractor qualifying the business, you're responsible.
Right.
What you're determining is whether or not he's the contractor. Did the contractor participate in the fraud? That's the question. Regardless of who qualified the business, did your contractor? It's based on the wording of the code. It's not because it's PAR church builders that, from what we've heard, is PAR church builders the one that committed the fraud, or is it the contractor that committed the fraud? You can only consider whether or not the contractor committed the fraud.
But again, if I got this correct, the license holder is responsible for overseeing
PAR church builders.
The qualified company.
He may not have done it, but he's still responsible.
Yes, that's the key. It becomes Mr. Burgess's responsibility to oversee, look into the books, et cetera, to make sure that fraud is not taking place, because it is his license.
I understand what you're saying, but aren't we splitting hairs? Because how is he supposed to know that this person pulled the permit under his license? I mean, that would mean, I could go pull a permit under your name, Mr. Lister. Now what?
Not if you don't have a letter of authority. You have a letter of
right, but if I'm crafty enough.
You just spelled that out.
Yeah.
Right.
He has a note.
If I'm crafty enough, I can figure it out. I'm not, but.
Yeah. Well, in those cases, you would prove that somebody forged your signature, that you was you had no, connection to it. That's what you would prove there.
So I do want to draw your attention to 1837C. The Contractor Competency Board may revoke, suspend, or deny issuance or renewal of the certificate of a contractor, impose fines, skip forward to, or any combination thereof, if the contractor or if the business entity or any general partner, officer, director, trustee, or member of a business entity for which the contractor is a qualifying agent is found guilty of any of the acts as outlined in this article. So that's where it pulls in any of the persons acting on his behalf. I know, because that's been the question, kind of, and that's where this ties in our actual code of ordinances.
So we go back to count one. Is there a violation or not?
Did you want to read it out again, or are we good?
Finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct.
I want to make a motion.
A second?
What was your motion?
Motion to find him in violation.
In violation.
Of count one.
Of count one. You have a second?
A second.
I have a motion. Find in violation of Code Section 1837C11. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Okay. It is.
Can I make a recommendation on this because of what we've heard today and what you understand and the way that the law is written, that you clarify that you're finding him in violation. It's just a recommendation. You find him in violation because he's the qualifying agent, and maybe it was an officer of the corporation that committed it. So based on you may want to clarify that just for the purposes of going forward.
Understood.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, let me settle the fact that this motion has been approved. I didn't put that in the record. At the same time, Mr. Waters has a company name, but he has a license. Even though he's the sole owner, he, as Mr. Walters, the licensee, is responsible for what his company does. The good thing is he owns it. He's the sole proprietor, so he's got it. But it's the same purpose if you use a name of XYZ company and become the qualifier. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, Ms. Christie, but so he still is liable according to the law. The reason I know this, the reason I have experience of that, we had cases come through here like that, as well as being involved at the state level, knowing that we have bad actors all the time that do this kind of stuff. Sometimes it is a company that is a big corporation that they have hired a qualifier. But whenever it goes down, he's standing there all by himself. And it's sad, but.
I just mentioned this because of the criminal implications against the corporation itself, because he hasn't been, although he's been with, although he was the qualifying agent, and I don't challenge that he failed to file the proper paperwork and remove him as qualifying agent, but there's criminal implications involving PAR. Which was a corporation that is inactive as of 2025, and he was removed from the paperwork based on as far as not the DBPR paperwork, but the state paperwork, the Sunbiz paperwork, in 2019. So that's the only reason I say draw a distinction for the purposes of the record that he is guilty because of his qualifying agent status.
So would we
and the acts of an officer.
We can't amend the motion because it's already been approved.
Okay.
Correct? Robert's rule won't let me amend something that's already approved. Can we have a separate motion that the previous motion was Or was that not, I don't.
No, I'm not, you don't have
taste
to
right.
amend your motion. I would just say, put it on the record that that's
Okay.
the reasoning behind it.
Right.
That it's not that he committed he's the registered agent, so he's
Gotcha.
responsible when somebody else as an officer commits the fraud.
So for the record, Mr. Clerk, this is not showing his guilt criminally into those items, but as a license holder, qualifier of the said company. Thank you. Count 2. Ms. Jennifer, would you mind reading that for us?
As to count 2, does the board find the respondent in violation of Code Section 1837C6, financial mismanagement or misconduct in the practice of contracting that causes financial harm to a customer?
Well, this could be a tough one because
I'm still gonna say motion to find him in violation.
Second.
so we have a motion found in violation of Escambia County Code Section 1837C6 as a qualifier of this Park Church Builders. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Or raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay. Motion is approved. Yeah, I didn't say unanimously. I just said motion is approved. And I understand this is a tough thing, I have to say. It ain't that we're just up here throwing our hands up. But the law does state that the qualifier is responsible, so.
Right. I understand all of that, and based off of what's in the law, in the code, I think I'm doing what need to be done.
It is a strict liability code. I mean, there's not wiggle room on this.
And there's a good purpose for that. Because we have plenty of folks coming here that needs to be strung up. They need to be found responsible for their actions. We have plenty of that. So there's a good purpose for what's there. Unfortunately, the snare catches somebody who's, I wouldn't use the word ignorance in a wrong word, but was just ignorant to the fact that his license was being used. But regardless, he had an LOA, and it was not rescinded. So by virtue, the responsibility still lies. And I can say that I think the majority of this board sympathizes with you from what I'm hearing, Mr. Burgess. But we're kind of locked into a area here.
Yeah, my only trepidation was putting that extra language in there just for the record, not to avoid the wrongdoing, but maybe down the road, instead of getting hung, or being able to maintain some revenue, your livelihood. So that's my whole point for objecting. So
it's a tough one. So since the license has been brought into inactive status, since the license has been brought into an inactive status at the state, do we not need to send anything to CILB?
So, I mean, it's on the record, the license is inactive. When we looked it up, we confirmed that it's inactive with the state. Staff here would take the license inactive with us as well. For him to have to want to bring that back active, he would have to register back with us at such time.
Gotcha.
You still need to make a determination as to permitting privileges. And an active license can be made active relatively easily, right? So you still need to make a determination as to permitting privileges.
Do we want to take any action on permitting privileges it says it is subject to suspension or revocation of permit fees. That does not mean we have to. That means it's subject to.
Correct.
Well, we could direct that to Par Church Builders, right?
It's the license holder.
It goes against the contractor.
Okay.
Let me ask a question. Are you planning on going after the gentleman that used your license? Criminal or civil, whatever that may be?
I guess it depends on what happens next. I have obtained counsel, and I was told of what could happen here today. Obviously, yeah, I'm going to strongly fight against any financial mismanagement that I didn't even know existed. The retraction from the state license registration in 2019, I guess that's when it was updated because I left in 2018. Again, this is just, I thought I was off the license. I had no idea. And so, but yes, depending on what happens, the actions the church takes or, to recoup their money, yeah, I'm going to participate in that. And yes, I will definitely defend myself in that position. So, absolutely.
So, I guess my question is that, understanding the situation and the story, that so we can make a recommendation to the state to revoke or suspend, correct? So, yes, you can. So, and again, not knowing what's going to happen 6 months, a year from now, 2 years from now, whether or not you're going to make your license or would want to activate your license in the state of Florida, is there something that we can do to monitor that in the event in 2 years, was to say suspended for 2 years, and in 2 years before it goes active, that there has been action taken, and it's not, because again, at the end of the day, it's still your uncle. It's one of those things where, you forgive and forget, and, there's no action taken. But if there's aggressive action taken from you, I wouldn't want to see you not activate your license in Florida because you did have a qualifier that, abused your license. So, and I don't know legally whether we can do something like that or not, but it's just a question I'm asking, that in order rather than just suspend it and
are you asking there be some kind of trigger or mechanism that you want this brought before the board should he try to register with us again?
If he tried to register again, or if he wanted to make his license
bring it
active,
active and register with us?
Yeah. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I'm like, instead of saying that, hey, just go ahead and suspend your license and we're going to require the state to do the same thing for a third party's actions. Again, you're still responsible. I'm not taking that away. That in the event that there's action taken personally on your behalf that, hey, I am going after the guy that I qualified this business for, and, you decide to say, hey, 16 months or 2 months from now, your cases are over, he's in jail, whatever that scenario may be, and you say, hey, look, I've taken every action, can I, reinstate my license?
Right.
And again, I don't know the answer to that question. That's why they're discussing.
I don't know exactly how to approach that. According to my attorney, there's really nothing for me to go after him for at this point, unless I was a named offended in something. Well, but I don't know what ramifications that entails. Like if that's just falsifying a document, I have no idea. I will tell you that I do have a business that is in the process. We applied early on, as soon as I left Par Church Builders, to keep this license active. This license was one of the hardest ones out of all the 6 states I got to get. It was very difficult. I was very happy to know that I could just leave it inactive for a period of time and keep it active. I do intend to be a licensed contractor under my company that I own. I don't currently have any work in Florida or anything like that going on, and don't know if I will, but I own property here, and sometime in the future I may. So I would ask that if there was a way to direct that towards Par Church Builders and not me directly, I would ask for that leniency.
Can we take 5 minutes for y'all to figure out, can we do that?
What do you have?
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to make sure I understand your question. I understand what he's saying, because he's just saying take the actions against Par Church and not against him.
Yeah, which we can.
So your options before you today are suspend his privileges or revoke his privileges for permitting, and that's it. Your recommendation to CILB could be revoke or suspend, but they're going to do what they're going to do regardless of what. And I know he has an inactive license, but he can bring that, but when he wants to bring that license, when he wants to register that license in Escambia County, that could come back, that's gonna come back.
So can we take 5 minutes for y'all to discuss this and then
Sure.
give us a definition?
But that is what you're trying to figure out, what can you do when he tries to come back?
We will recess for 5 minutes. Thank you. Is Ms. Christie still? Just a second. That's fine. We can wait. Yeah. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And what is the resolution, Ms. Christie?
Okay. So as far as you can determine what you want the penalty to be. As far as you've determined that he was in violation, you want to determine what the penalty will be, which would be how long you want to suspend or revoke. Thanks. How long you want to suspend or revoke permitting privileges. However, if he goes back and gets his license active with the state and becomes a certified licensed contractor again, then you would follow the same procedure as you would with any other certified contractor. It wouldn't come back in front of you because this board doesn't look to see if certified contractors can be active in our county. They can just be active in our county.
Right.
So that's not a decision that you have any jurisdiction over.
The only thing we could do is deal with the permitting privileges for a specified time so that if next week he became active, that what we say for the county would still, if we chose anything, that's what would be.
That's correct.
Gotcha. So is there any appetite, any desire for some type of a suspension or revoking of permitting privileges for Mr. Burgess? It says it's subject to, which means we don't have to.
Well, I think we probably need to because he can reactivate them anytime. And as Mr. Patel said, is his uncle. Forgive and forget, move on. So I'm going to make a motion to suspend permitting privileges for 1 year.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to suspend the permanent privileges for 1 year in Escambia County. Any question up here? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion is approved.
For the record, there was 2 in opposition.
Yeah, it was not unanimous. When it's unanimous, I say that. I try to.
The last item before the board would be the recommendation for the CILB.
Do you have any recommendation to the Construction Industry Licensing Board?
I make a motion for the same 1 year suspension.
I'll second that.
I have a motion second for 1 year suspension to the CILB. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Not unanimously, but it was approved. Okay.
That concludes that hearing. Ms. Christie, would you please introduce?
Sure. Okay. And this, if you want to adjourn, we can, then I can.
I'd rather you introduce us to whoever's been over here whispering in your ear the whole time. Mr. Incognito here.
This is Jeff Broderson. We're very blessed to have him at our at the county attorney's office. He came over with very good credentials, and Jeff and I worked together many years ago at the state attorney's office, and so he has done contract law, he's done civil work, he knows real estate law, so he's been a great addition, and I'm wanting him to be the person that when I'm not here, he's willing to cover. So I was trying to keep you in line, so that he didn't have a bad experience. But I feel like I want to be comfortable when I'm not here that the person who's advising you is interested and well informed.
He will have his hands full with this bunch, that's for sure. We will make sure we work your brain. Thank you. We're glad you're here with us.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Yes, sir.
As you can tell by the whispering, he won't be shy.
Yep, that's good. We need that. We depend on it. Okay.
He's getting well educated.
Meeting is adjourned.